I've talked to many of y'all about self-care and the importance of it, but it still is not something that's a part of your life. George told me, he was like, that ain't gonna last. That ain't gonna work. You've got to stop. You got too much on your plate. I had 3 other companies that I owned at the time on top of the CFO job I was doing. That's not me bragging. That is not good stuff. That is bad stuff. That is not healthy. And George pointed that out to me. He goes, and he told me that right off the bat. He's like, you are going to have to change your lifestyle. So I ended up selling the companies, focused on the CFO job, brought my hours down, and it made a huge difference because that was causing the stress of life and the stress of things I was doing was contributing to my acting out. It's interesting to me, like when I came to George, whatever George told me to do, I did. Didn't matter what it was. Didn't matter if I liked it, didn't like it. If he told me to do it, I was going to do it. So he's like, you need to clear your plate. Yes, sir. I'm going to clear my plate. Why? Because at the time, George had 30 plus years clean. He was the only guy I knew, only person I'd ever met that struggled with this and had that amount of sobriety. So I was like, this guy's figured it out. I'm going to do exactly as he says. Because if I do exactly as he says, I will be where he is. 11 years later, here I am. Right? Skipping out on self-care and having that routine in your life is like trying to have a routine that you're going to do a race, right? So you need to hydrate, you need to eat right, and you need to run. 3 things, right? Hydrate. We could switch this out for stretching. Stretch, run, eat right. Diet, eat, stretch. If you take any one of these out, it affects your ability to complete the race. If I don't eat right, not fueled appropriately, body's not doing well. It's not a well-oiled machine. I've done this. If I don't run, obviously I'm not going to have the endurance to actually run the race. If I don't stretch or hydrate, I'm going to get injuries. All 3 have to be in play for me to maximize my run to the finish line without injury, with good performance, right? We don't talk about self-care for shits and giggles, right? It has to be something that you do if you want long-term results, because what will happen is unless you change these things about yourself and about the stress that enters your life, eventually you'll slide back into that behavior. Because what self-care is a replacement coping mechanism that you are currently using with your addiction. Okay? So you are removing addictive behavior, and then there's a void. There's just an empty void. Well, what happens when stress comes back up? Or there's an overwhelming event? What happens? There's nothing there for you to go to. There's no routine that's available to you that you've built and proven and created neural pathways for should that moment come. So what do? What do? You go right back to what you did before. Right? This is why I see guys slip years later. They can only handle it for so long. Stress, 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 stress. It is one of the massive triggers that slides us back into acting out. Yet we will not change this area of our life. Like I said, when I came to George, I said, no matter what George tells me to do, and I've said this on this call before, if he tells me to go sit by the road and bark at cars like a dog, I'm going to do it. Now, I fought him on some of this stuff, doing it begrudgingly, but I did it. Those self-care routines that I put in place when working with George are here with me today, and they still impact me on a daily basis. They set the tone for my day. They help me with my mental health. They help me with my physical health. Healthy body, healthy mind. It's so important.